Good evening, you're with ET now. This is the India Development Debate. I'm joining you from our news center in Mumbai. Joining me in Delhi is my colleague and co-anchor Supriya Shrinate. Let's take it straight to the big debate tonight. The inevitable has happened in J&K. The marriage of convenience between the BJP and the PDP has failed after a 2-year uneasy alliance. The BJP finally pulled the plug on the PDP government headed by Mehbooba Mufti, who has already sent in her resignation to the governor. Justifying the decision, the BJP says the Mufti government failed to bring in peace as there was a marked increase in terror attacks in the valley over the last 2 years. Explaining the rationale for withdrawing support, senior BJP leader Ram Madhav said law and order was under threat while development projects failed to take off.
Indeed. Now, Mehbooba Mufti has asserted that muscular policy will not work in Jammu and Kashmir. Explaining her own party, the PDP's policy in Kashmir, she said her party believes in touch and heal policy. The jury is of course still out on what works best in India's most troubled state, but political observers are unanimous that the BJP-PDP alliance was never meant to stay long, calling it an opportunistic, untenable alliance to begin with. Rahul Gandhi has said that the BJP-PDP government set fire to J&K, killing many innocent people, including our brave soldiers. The Congress president also went on to insist that the unholy nexus cost India strategically, adding that imposition of the president's rule will only do further damage to the state. Looks like the hilly state is headed for the president's rule as the numbers don't add up for any other coalition government, and with Omar Abdullah categorically stating that he is not going to stake claim. Rudderless in J&K and what it means to national politics is a big topic of discussion and debate right here on the India Development Debate tonight. We've got a very eminent panel joining us right here. Mr. M.M. Ansari, former CIC and an interlocutor in J&K. Vineet Goenka representing the BJP, Adil Singh Bopara representing the Congress. Two independent political commentators and senior journalists, Neerja Chaudhary and of course Sanjeev Srivastav. Thank you very much each one of you for being with us. This is an important discussion, an important debate to have. I really urge my panel to not get into any mudslinging. Let's keep this cordial and let's try and look at solutions in a very turmoil-torn valley of Kashmir. Neerja Chaudhary, if I may begin with you. Are you surprised by the end of this alliance, or did you see it coming? And has the timing perhaps come as a surprise in that case then?
I think the timing has surprised a lot of people. Many people, observers in Kashmir, saw it coming, but much later. And you know, it's very interesting. From all accounts, it seems it took Mehbooba Mufti herself by surprise. Her press conference today, we found her not her usual assertive self. Of course, she was very much on the defensive, defending her government's role in the last 2 years that she has been CM, all that the PDP had done on 370, protecting that, withdrawal of cases against youth. You know, she and of course her most telling comment was a muscular policy will not work in J&K. J&K is not enemy territory, it's part of India, which is all true. So did she have an inkling that the BJP may go in for a muscular policy in the weeks and months to come? And you know, as far as untenability of this alliance, of course it's been untenable. South Pole, North Pole, if you remember, when the government was formed and Mufti Muhammad Saeed was in the saddle, they talked about hard Hindutva and soft separatism that used to be, that the PDP was supposed to have represented at that time, coming together. And so they were poles apart, no doubt about that. But for the last 3 years, they made the alliance work. And even Mehbooba Mufti, for all her differences with the BJP, and Mufti Sahib used to say even at that time, my opposition to forming a government with the BJP is really coming from within my own home. You know, I remember him, he told me this personally. Right. So given that, suddenly what has happened, the timing of it, and I believe what has happened today has more to do with India in 2019 than with J&K in 2018. And we will see Kashmir and unity and integrity of the country, fight against terrorism, nationalism, a hard policy in Kashmir and vis-a-vis Pakistan become poll issues in 2019. Increasingly become poll issues.
Okay, I take that point. I take that point.
Obviously, the BJP felt that Mehbooba Mufti would be uncomfortable with that.
Sure, I take that point, and that in some sense has to be the crux of this debate, and we will debate that extensively on whether this has been done with an eye on 2019 as messaging to the core constituency of the BJP. But, you know, since we are talking about the trigger to this, Sanjeev Srivastava, quickly, was the Ramzan ceasefire in some sense the final nail in the coffin? The outcome of the Ramzan ceasefire, did that sort of, you know, give the BJP some sort of an excuse to really snap ties?
First of all, I completely agree with Neerja Chaudhary, and a very good line from her that it's more to do with India circa 2019 than J&K 2018. So, but the tragedy is, first I'll answer your question, the Ramzan ceasefire, I think in a manner of speaking you can say that was perhaps the last gesture or effort made by the government in Delhi to see if things would turn better from there. Unfortunately, during the last week of that ceasefire, things got from bad to worse, and which has been a trend since 2016 July, since Burhan Wani was killed. So what is most unfortunate is that in the 2019 elections, is that all that the central government and Modi government has to show for, who started off with, being a man who raised the hopes of tens of millions in the country of Achhe Din and a change of scene in every sense of the term in development and Vikas in the next 5 years, has to fall back to the nationalism agenda, to Kashmir, to 370, to taking on Pakistan, to Hindu-Muslim, to Hindutva. That is the tragedy of last 4 years of Modi government, that in the end, if one had to come to this, if everything boiled down to this, then what was the grand purpose on which he wrote that? You know, it was a massive hope wave in 2014. That has eluded the country, and now we are back to this kind of politics, which unfortunately, it may be circa India 2019, but it is not good for India 2018, 19, 20 or onwards.
Anyways, I think that's a very important topic that you've touched upon, that it's not good for India. And is this all that we've got to go to our electorates with? But let me take this across to Mr. Ansari, who's not just been the CIC there, but he's also been an interlocutor in Jammu and Kashmir. And Mr. Ansari, was this an opportunistic, untenable alliance to begin with, given that there were very, very contradictory ideologies of the two parties? I mean, Neerja referred to her private conversation with Mufti Saab, saying he said that there was opposition to the alliance from within his own home, essentially referring to his politician daughter Mehbooba Mufti. So was this an untenable, opportunistic alliance which was doomed to end the way it has? Mr. Ansari.
Well, it was indeed very opportunistic, and there has been some ideological differences on the ground that the BJP has been wanting to abrogate 370, whereas the PDP and the other state parties, they have advocated for greater autonomy under Article 370. But what is more important is that even though they have been the strange bedfellows who have fallen apart now, the agenda of alliance which they had worked out after a great deal of effort, which also took some time to form the government, was indeed a very unique document, and I was expecting a great deal of success on that account, which talked about development, which talked about alienation of youth, which talked about addressing the issues of human rights violation, which also talked about reaching out to the major stakeholders, namely Pakistan and the separatists, following the same line as Atal Bihari Vajpayee has followed. But unfortunately, what we have seen is that the present government has not followed what Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh did, and they have adopted as my predecessor have said, the muscular policy and the brutal force which has been used in the backdrop of using APSA and the PSA, which no democratic country in the world has this kind of draconian laws for so long. So what we were seeing is that despite the fact that there were problems in governance of the state because of the militancy, insurgency, but at the same time we had a very unique alliance document, and we expected that probably the BJP and the PDP will be working in implementation of the agenda of alliance in the later speed. Unfortunately, that has not happened, which is why we saw the youth, they have been fighting all along because of the ideological differences.
Sure. I take that point, Mr. Ansari. I take that point. Allow me to interrupt you, sir.
Sure.
Allow me to interrupt you, sir. Let's get in political reactions. And you've raised some very, very valid points there. Development was the plank on which the government came to power. The document, like Mr. Ansari points out, Mr. Goenka, clearly talked a lot about development, about job opportunities, about getting alienated youth on board. Why have you deviated from the development plank that you promised the people in the state of Jammu and Kashmir? And did it take the BJP 3.5 years to realize this alliance was not meant to be and was not delivering the agenda of alliance? I mean, what took you so long to wake up to this reality then?
From the state government to do a ceasefire, which the central government obliged. There were forces outside the hands of the central government who compelled the central government to react in this fashion. And if you have known, the policy of BJP is very clear. It's nation first, then the party, and then the individual. So here the call of, when the state government re-requested to extend the ceasefire, I think that was the bone of contention, where the central government thought that, BJP thought that it should part ways from PDP. If you ask me, did it really help putting the coalition government there? Yes. The figures, if you see, 2004, we had lost 325 security forces there. And in 2017, there were only 83. Deaths are condemnable. We cannot compare deaths. But if you see, the numbers have come down tremendously. Whereas if you see the number of terrorists been knocked down in 2017 has gone up to 218. So if you see the casualties ratio, the security forces had a total advantage in the era of PDP and BJP here. And the developmental agenda, in the last 60-65 years, Kashmir never saw development. But in the era of Modi ji, it has seen development. You see the 2 tunnels which were made there, which are the last mile connectivity, which are the all-weather roads, and that is going to bring the development for the next decades, which are going to see. Let me mention 2 tunnels. Zozira tunnel, which is 6,800 crore rupees. Another tunnel, which is the Chennai-Noshari tunnel, which is almost around 9-kilometer channel. And these tunnels are the path-breaking infrastructure project which happened in Kashmir. So I can go on listing these kind of projects which have been done in the last 2.5 years. So if you see 2.5 year confidence building measures, pumping in capital, doing infrastructure projects, doing fundamental changes there, so that the life of the brethren, my own citizens there improve. There are opportunities which should go up. One more thing I would like to mention before I take it to the political angle. The reduction of interest for the females there for borrowing a loan for businesses has come down. The stamp duty was waived off for female folks when they buy land for businesses. Now, these all were projects which were there intended to increase self-entrepreneurship there, to increase capital investment there. Now, these are all positive things, I think, probably. Somebody somewhere did not want this to go on, and they were an unholy act of killing security forces, unarmed security forces who were returning home in the holy period of Ramzan. Probably no devil would do this kind of act, and that was done there, and that is the call. So where you have difference of opinion, you try to cover it up with developmental agenda, and I would like to congratulate Modi ji for that.
Okay, just hold your thoughts there, because Adar Singh Boparai, I want you to respond to this. The point that is being made by Mr. Goenka is that the BJP did all it could as far as development is concerned. Tunnels were made, interest rates were slashed for women, stamp duties were reduced. They did not have a free hand because they were the junior allies. The PDP was calling the shots. The BJP is essentially trying to take the position that Ram Madhav did in the press conference, that they tried to stick to this other agenda, alliance agenda, as far as the development narrative is concerned. They weren't quite successful by the end of it, and they don't have to be blamed. It's the PDP that should be blamed for it. Let me get the Congress party to respond to that. They say they did not deviate from the development track, the development agenda.
Well, Supriya, I'm shocked listening to Mr. Goenka because this is not even Mr. Ram Madhav's case. Even he's conceded that this alliance was disastrous. So I wonder where Mr. Goenka and how has he been briefed to say all this. But be that as it may, let me come to the core issue. The BJP and the PDP is running away and abdicating its political responsibility after pushing the state into turmoil. This alliance from the word go was a paradox. It was actually akin to bringing the North Pole and the South Pole together, and it was BJP's desire for power which trumped national considerations. Now let's see, what is a bellwether for a government's Kashmir policy? The situation is such in Kashmir that the Election Commission of India and the central government cannot hold a bipole in Anantnag. After 70 years, the BJP government cannot hold a bipole in Anantnag, and they are tom-tomming about development. It is shocking to say the least. Number one. Number two, we saw the bipole in Srinagar. The voter turnout was 7%. Please understand, this is actually an indicator to the level of alienation which exists in Kashmir today. Now, let's take the security casualties. In the past 4 years, there has been a 300% increase in security casualties. We've lost close to 400 of our brave hearts. We've lost close to 250 civilians. There's been a meteoric increase in ceasefire violations. What is Mr. Modi talking about? What is the BJP talking about? What policy do they have? They've been oscillating from one extreme to the other. When the Congress party was in power in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, tourism, the number of tourists increased to 14 lakhs. Today it's come down to 4 lakhs. How does the BJP explain all this? As far as the tunnels are concerned, these were all projects which were initiated during the Congress period. But be that as it may, see the sense of alienation in Kashmir today. Young boys are joining the militancy ranks. Mr. Dineshwar Sharma himself has conceded and admitted that the chasm has never been wider.
No, I understand that.
Young boys are joining the ranks. They feel alienated. What has Mr. Modi done?
Okay, Adil Singh Boparai, just hold your thoughts there. This is the India development debate. To us, development matters as much, and which is why I alluded to the points being made by Mr. Vineet Goenka. But Mr. Goenka, there is a very, very important issue to ponder over: the heightened alienation in the valley, the fact that elections cannot be conducted, the fact that 7% of the population comes out to vote in Srinagar. I am sorry, no amount of development can compensate for the democratic participation of the people. How are you going to justify the alienation that has happened in the valley? I mean, who's going to take these tunnels if the youth take up guns in Kashmir?
Yeah, so let me not use your channel to share certain facts. Kashmir is not only about the valley which is there in Srinagar, but it is also about Leh, Ladakh, the Jammu, the other regions. Unfortunately, the previous governments reduced the entire J&K as to the issue of only valley there. If you see the CAG report of 2015, it talks about over expenses, exceeded expenses for not declared reasons. That was the main reason of unrest in the entire Jammu and Kashmir. No development was done there. Youth did not have any job to be done there. They were not able to transport from one place to another places because there was no road connectivity at all. This all weather roads will connect them. If you see, there was no ring road in Jammu, neither in Srinagar. So this 3,383 crore rupees which was spent on the highways, the two ring roads which have been built in the Jammu region, also in the Srinagar region, which will help connectivity. Now, will not this increase the employability there? It will also increase chances of being aligned with us there. I will also like to give one example. The condensed container transportation on the railway, that's a game changer of bringing apples to the mainland. Now, that was never conceived in the last 65 years. Congress was just trying to appease the people. 24,000 crore rupees been given by Manmohan Singh ji as a package, whereas against that 80,000 crore rupees been pumped by Mr. Modi in the last 3 years. Now, that shows the commitment which was there in Kashmir. Now, if you see all the agricultural produce which has gone up, 8.3% increase in agricultural produce. My dear Adil ji, you were growing insurgency. Let me remind you, 1947 pain was Congress. Jawaharlal Nehru took it to. I did not interfere when you were speaking. Please complete. Adil ji, let us have a civilized debate. I did not interfere. Please. 1947, it went to here because of Mr. Nehru. 61, 65, 1961, 65, both the wars. And let me remind you, 81 to 84, when there were attempts by the cross-border
Mr. Goenka, allow me to interrupt you. I don't want, Mr. Goenka, let me come in there. Let's not take this to 1947. Let's not take this to 1947 and 64. Let me interrupt you there. Let's not take this to 47 and 64. Let's not take this to 47 and 64. Let's not take this to, Supriya, allow me to. let's not take this to 1947-64. I have a simple question to you, to you, Sanjeev Srivastava. And I don't want this debate to get hijacked there. Let's shift focus back to the core issues. Sanjeev Srivastava, does this decision reveal, in some sense, strong-willed action, or does it actually expose the lack of bold imagination and failure to resolve the core issues facing the people of Kashmir? Sanjeev Srivastava.
See, very honestly, one thing we all need to appreciate, whether it is the Congress or the BJP, that since the valley was thrown into turmoil in the mid-80s, actually there is no easy solution. Nobody really has the answer. It is more a question of management and how do you manage to have more peace than violence in the valley, and then in that process try and work out a resolution which may be more long term. So there is no point in playing politics, number one here. Number two, I actually don't think that it was an opportunistic alliance in 2015 when Mufti and Modi joined hands. That time, because the timing was different, it was seen as a very bold and not opportunistic but ambitious meeting of minds, both sides trying to come closer, poles apart, opposites attract, maybe something good will come out. So I fully endorse what happened in 2015. I think the intent was very good, that let us somehow bridge this divide. What happened post 2015, and especially after Mufti Sahib died, and Mehbooba, who has been a great organizational leader of her party, but I think was a complete non-event as far as being a chief minister was concerned, and complete lack of imagination from the BJP side also. So what more strong will can one now display? How was Mehbooba Mufti stopping the BJP from being muscular? We have seen a very muscular policy on the ground for the last 2 years. I was talking to a very senior Home Ministry official looking after Kashmir division, and he told me last year sometime that we can have peace in one day if we stop killing terrorists. Now, if that is the mindset, okay, kill terrorists, engage them, you need to eliminate them. But where is the other side of the stick? Building tunnels, great, very good, no undermining that. But where is the political initiative? Where is the dialogue process? How do you reach out to the young kids of Kashmir? I have no answers to all of that. But that is the challenge which confronts India and Delhi. And for that, I think both Mehbooba and the Modi government have been spectacular flops. That is the only thing. And now Mehbooba gone, the onus will be completely on the center. So muscular policy, Hindu-Muslim, all that may help you somewhere consolidate your basic vote bank, but it is not going to help us at all in Kashmir. I am afraid it will be going from bad to worse. I hope I am proved wrong.
Right. If anything, it's going to be disastrous in the valley if you try and be muscular, but I think that's where the concern and the fear really is. And Neerja Chaudhary, coming to you, does today's move, does today's divorce, does today's separation, call it what you may, give the central government a greater license to come down more definitely on separatists in the valley and perhaps take a more hardline approach? That's a concern that a lot of people have shared. Do you share similar concerns? Do you believe the central government today has a greater license to clamp down on these elements?
I think the fact that they felt the need to dump Mehbooba Mufti shows that they felt she will not go along with what they have in mind in the coming weeks and months in the state. Otherwise, for all the bumps, it was going ahead. And for the BJP to be in power in the only Muslim majority state in the country gave it a certain kind of a profile. And I must tell you this at this time, Mufti Sahib, when he decided to go with the BJP, had 2-3 considerations in mind, and I again say that because it was something I was privy to in a conversation. He said if we have a hostile center, they could make life very difficult, number one. We cannot leave Jammu, where the BJP had swept, out of government, because that would mean down the line, the state may break up. And if you had not only a hostile center, but a BJP in power in the center, and suppose Mufti and Congress had formed the government, which was possible with the help of independence. So on the one side, you will have the BJP calling for the scrapping of Article 370. On the other side, there will be a counter reaction of the militants calling for more and more azadi. So it would become a very untenable situation. But he said everything hinges on the ability of Mr. Narendra Modi to be another Vajpayee. The success of this experiment will depend on that. Well, that experiment has failed today. We can say that. But what the future holds, you know, the hard line, where it will take us, will it yield them votes in 2019 in the rest of the country? All that remains to be seen. But yes, I am full of disquiet, because you know the alienation in the valley with the young people and also the educated young people who have lost fear of death. That is a change that's come about between the 90s and the militancy today in the valley. Now we can ignore it, we can use the law and order methods instead of the healing touch or the political approach, but it's fraught with danger. Fraught with danger for India as an entity.
Okay, I take that point. Mr. Ansari, you know, to take that point forward, you know, the incidents of stone pelting at school children and tourists perhaps prove that protesters are at best leaderless and at worst acting at the behest of Pakistan and its proxies. Yes, there has been a marked shift in the climate in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but why could the BJP-PDP alliance not bridge the divide between Jammu and the valley and move towards a national reconciliation as mentioned in the agenda for alliance? Why do you believe have they failed so miserably in doing that?
Well, there may be different reasons. While there had been discussions on and off even when Mufti Sahab was alive, and he did talk about implementation of the agenda of alliance, and nothing was happening. And when he expired, Mehbooba Mufti saw the same thing, and she expected that probably nothing would be done, and therefore there was a inordinate delay in her taking up oath for the chief ministership. So the point is that ever since the beginning, though the agenda of alliance was agreed upon by both the parties, but there had been a great deal of reluctance on the part of the center to implement the agenda. And Mehbooba has been talking of reaching out to the youth, reaching out to the separatist leader, and reaching out to Pakistan. She had been saying on and off, you know, but the center has not been listening to, and it has been resorting to, as has been discussed in this debate, a muscular and approach that has clearly failed, and the Modi government realizes that probably in the remaining 1 year of its tenure it will not succeed, and therefore it is better to get out of it on the pretext of unsuccessful implementation of Ramzan ceasefire. So I sense that one, there had been ideological differences between the two parties, and the BJP has been talking of all good things, but it has not been able to do anything. Rather, even the Ramzan ceasefire, I see it that probably it was a message being given to the Kashmiri Muslims and to the Muslims of the country, and also to the whole world, that the India as a secular country cares for Muslim. But you know, insofar as implementation of these schemes are concerned, you know, nothing has been done, and therefore I consider that it is largely the central government which is responsible for pursuing its own agenda, because it has been talking of abrogation of 370, it has talked about 35A, it has talked about you know, about the role of Pakistan in sponsoring terrorism, and almost in every
Mr.
election,
Ansari,
you remember from Gujarat to Bihar, Hafiz Saeed and Pakistan has been mentioned. So the BJP has been trying to polarize in one way or the other, and therefore it has never meant of implementing the agenda of alliance.
Mr. Ansari, please bear with me. I will have to cut you short there, Mr. Ansari, because we will discuss those points a little later. I'll come to you in a bit, Mr. Goenka, but I want to go to Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress party. And you know, we at ET now blame the BJP. It cannot absolve itself of what has happened in the valley. Where has Kashmir ended up after 3.5 years? But I think you have to be equally blamed of what happened in the last 65, 70 odd years in Kashmir. You cannot be absolved of the responsibility at all. But there's a more specific question that I have for you, Adil, and that has to do with what does today today's development mean for Kashmir? Omar Abdullah was on record to say that this is the death of democracy. But a lot of people from within the Congress believe that a governor's rule is perhaps a good solution, given that the PDP and BJP had outrun its relevance, had no moral authority to bridge this divide. Perhaps fresh elections are not necessarily a bad outcome out of all this. Adil?
Well, Supriya ji, one preliminary point. Please see our reign prior to 2015. There was increased employment generation, there was an increase in tourism. So this indicates that that balm or that moment of peace was arriving back in Kashmir. Unfortunately, when the BJP and the PDP came to power, it spiraled out of control and Can you hear me, please? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm saying
you
haven't been able to find a solution to Kashmir. So don't take the high moral ground on Kashmir. I can hear you very clearly. Go ahead.
No, please understand. Please see our last 5 years when we were in power. The situation had drastically improved. But let me come to the core problem here. The core problem with the BJP is that it's always about political expediency for them. It's never about national interest. It is always about headline management. It is always about propaganda. It is always about all their policies and schemes which have a single point agenda to make Mr. Modi appear to be larger than life. And this is costing Kashmir peace and tranquility. Let me go further. Now what is the BJP going to try? They're going to convert Kashmir into a communal laboratory. You will see this happening, and some of your panelists have expressed that anxiety. The BJP will go all hogs to convert Kashmir into a communal laboratory so that they can polarize votes and consolidate their vote share in other parts of the country, which will be tragic for Kashmir. Which will indeed be tragic for Kashmir. And I want to retort back to what Mr. Goenka has said. He was talking about tunnels and the so-called development which nobody sees in the country. The fact of the matter is security installations are being attacked today. Brevas are being attacked today. How do you justify that? Who's going to come and invest in Kashmir when there is no safety of life and property? That's a prerequisite. Economic development can only happen if you can ensure law and order, if you can ensure security to human life, and that unfortunately is not there. And at this stage, this is an exit strategy which is being used by the BJP so that they can pass the entire buck on to Mehbooba Mufti, but they cannot run away. They cannot disassociate from themselves from this.
Okay, you're saying they
power in Jammu.
Okay, let me interrupt you. You're saying they cannot dissociate themselves. We moved away from that point.
All decisions were joint decisions.
Okay, I take that point. Adil, allow me to interrupt you.
Was a joint decision.
Okay, Adil,
they cannot disassociate themselves.
Okay, you made that point, Adil. Saying it again and again is not going to sort of, not going to help you make that point more emphatically. You made that point. Vineet Goenka, I'm coming to you very quickly. You can respond to what Adil said, but I want to add another question, and I hope you will address this in the right spirit. Is there, and this is a more fundamental question that all of us are wondering. I'm sure Neerja and Sanjeev have written about it and feel this way. Is there no place for middle ground in the political discourse when it comes to Kashmir? Is it now clear that you need to take a hardline view for you to find a solution, that there is only a muscular way out of the current situation in Kashmir? Is that the thinking in the BJP? Can you clear the air on that, sir?
I would like to reiterate the three words which Prime Minister Modi said in 2015, which he had quoted Atalji, the earlier Prime Minister: Kashmiriyat, Jamhuriyat and Insaniyat. And probably under this, the democratic process evolved there. There were talks which were best in the last 30 years which happened there. Insaniyat, I will give you one microscopic example which will tell you how development was taken to the houses of Kashmiris. Females are worst affected in Kashmir because the atmosphere there was impacting them. Open defecation, 8,000 toilets been built in one district to stop open defecation. You can understand, one side there is climatic condition which is sub-degree, another there were terrorism. The females were impacted, and that is a commendable work with the Swachh Bharat mission which was there. 3.7 lakh gas connections been given to BPL. Now this BPL originated because of the false policies of the earlier government, which were the failed policies. Now here what will Mr. Adil talk about when I talk about 330 megawatt project which was done in Krishna Ganga hydel project, which is not less than 6,000 crore rupees. Now this power project will give electricity to the entire valley. It will also control the water which is flowing to the other side, and that was the bone of contention between India and Pakistan. Now this could have been done in 50 years back. They have not done that. 1987 when the pot was boiling, they did not do that. They pumped money on the other side. Probably it is the failed policies of Congress, and I am very sorry to say one thing. Adilji, probably a president may not be even knowing Kashmir is on the north side of India. I don't know whether he is aware of that, because It's a lost
I
case.
don't want you to get personal. Firstly, and I think you've made your point there. I think the larger point that I want to make on this show is we are trying to find out what the solutions in Kashmir or Jammu and Kashmir can be. We don't want this to be a political mudslinging badge. And Mr. Goenka, no matter what you say, I really believe, you know, no amount of BPL gas connections or no amount of open defecation-free districts are going to make up for what is happening in Kashmir. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Let me finish. I think that's what I'm trying to explain to you and Adar Singh Boparai when he defines his party's position. But let me go across to Neerja Chaudhary. And Neerja, you know, I have failed to get an answer from both the Congress and the BJP on this. But what really is the solution in Kashmir? Because if you look at the UPA era dialogue, which was actually started by Mr. Vajpayee, it did not yield much result. It's not as if, you know, Kashmir was out of the doldrums and the turmoil ended there. And then Mehbooba Mufti perhaps is right to say that a muscular policy in Kashmir will not bear any fruits either. I'm just, as a concerned citizen of this country, I want to find out, where does the solution for Kashmir then lie?
You know, it's a tough one and it's got very, very complicated. You know, as far as India is concerned, it's my view, I think we cannot let Kashmir go because it's related to the very idea of India. If you concede to a separate state because it's a Muslim majority state, then you are accepting the principle that religion forms the basis of statehood. This is something India decided against when the partition took place, and it will have ramifications all over the country. Next people will say we are the yellow races in the northeast of India. Tamilians may say we want to go with the north of Sri Lanka. I mean, I'm looking at far-fetched scenarios. But yes, you may get Hindus saying, okay, Muslims in Kashmir, you want to have a separate state because you are a Muslim majority. Then Muslims of India go somewhere else. You know, all this, as I say, it will absolutely undercut the very idea of India. We cannot let Kashmir go for that reason. But if you want to keep Kashmir, you can't keep it like a festering sore that it's been getting worse by the day, by the hour, by the... so you've got to reach out to the people. You've got to win over the people. There's no other way. You've got to... Mehbooba Mufti's talked about the healing touch. It's not been used so effectively. The political approach, you just have to continue to dialogue. They are our people. They are part of our country. You cannot treat them as enemies. Those are our children. Even if they have been pelting stones, you've got to reach out to them and win them over. There's no shortcut. So I would say we failed. We failed to do it. And every party, Congress, when it had the opportunity, failed to do it. Played very short-term politics, and now that failure continues. There have been moments when, as you said, Atal Bihari Vajpayee tried very sincerely. So I don't know, this is a tough one. You know what is the solution?
Okay, absolutely. You know, finding a solution to this in a one-hour debate is sort of unreal. But I think you've sort of you know, you've really sketched out the scope of the problem and the scope of the solution in some sense, Neerja, by saying that obviously Kashmir will always remain a core, integral part of India, and there can be no solution that does not bring that into consideration. And to that extent, there is political consensus in this country on that issue as well. However, what's critical is how do we reach out to the people of Jammu and Kashmir and make them feel a more integral part of India. But quick question before I take a break, and this is to you, Mr. Ansari. Since the 26th of May 2014, 371 Jawans have been martyred and 239 civilians have been killed in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Over 3,000 border ceasefire violations by Pakistan and terrorist attacks on major military installations from Pathankot to Uri. Is this also in some sense a lack of a clear-cut policy to deal with Pakistan that has added to the confusion? Because the government has had sort of a blow-hot, blow-cold approach when it comes to Pakistan. You know, there is suddenly, we see that there are these back-channel talks. We see the NSA of India and Pakistan having a conversation when supposedly we're not supposed to have any diplomatic ties. So the government itself seems to have a slightly confused policy when it comes to Pakistan. And is that having an overhang in this particular issue?
Well, you have said it. In fact, the political analyst and Neerja Chaudhary will agree with me that they say that we have absolutely no Kashmir policy, so to say, and therefore we are totally confused about it. But I may also take up the question which you asked to Neerja Chaudhary as to what is the way forward. You know, I consider that India is a committed and a vibrant democratic country, a secular country, and therefore, it is possible to resolve all the contentious issues through the democratic process. I take for an example, after 60 years of discussions and debate, we have been able to resolve our border dispute with Bangladesh. The UPA prepared the initial framework which the BJP did not agree to it, but when the NDA government was formed, they came together and ultimately they agreed upon, and therefore we exchanged certain enclaves and the people, and ultimately after 60 years of discussions we have been able to resolve our border disputes with Bangladesh. Now a similar approach can also be adopted with Pakistan in talking to and also reach out to the separatist leaders, and we need to not only hold the territory, but also we say that Kashmir is an integrated part of India, and therefore the people should also be integrated with us in every sense of the term. There should not be any discrimination, there has to be minimum use of the brutal force, and the laws like draconian laws like the APSA and PSA have no role in any democratic society, but see it for the 30 years that we have, and therefore we have to look into our own self how we have been managing, rather than saying that the Kashmiris are radicalized, the Kashmiris are Wahhabist, and therefore we are going to clean up the entire system. We will never be able to do that. Our own many senior army officers have also said that the army has done what it could do, but what we are doing is that our army or the security forces are fighting with our own people. So what kind of integration, what kind of heart-winning approaches that we are going to adopt?
Mr. Ansari,
unfortunately, we have not been doing what we should be doing in any secular and any democratic country. We need to adopt a democratic approach. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, please hold your thoughts there, because I want to steer the discussion away from this, and I do want to talk on the larger repercussions of this on national politics. Another thing, Boparai, while the Congress party in unison is saying that this is an unholy, untenable alliance, one that was never going to last its full term, there are perhaps lessons to be learnt for unnatural allies here, the untenable alliances that our politicians are so quick to ink. You have yourself joined hands with JDS in Karnataka, a party that you fought tooth and nail in that state, another unnatural ally. Aren't there lessons that the political class, including the Congress party, needs to draw from this?
Well, Supriya, since you've asked me a question on the larger canvas, let me respond. Today, the country is going through a crisis. We're at a crossroad. We have to choose either the politics of inclusivity, politics of pluralism, or the other, and the insidious option is the politics of hate and bigotry, which the BJP has to offer. So, in that context, that's why we've appealed to all like-minded parties that we must come together, because the idea of India has to be safeguarded. The BJP is determined to destroy our syncretic culture. The BJP follows the politics of propaganda, deceive and divide. This is not something what India stands for, and in that context we asked all like-minded parties to come together so that this politics of the BJP's hate politics can be defeated. This is point number one. Point number two, coming to the Kashmir issue, there has to be a two-pronged approach. There has to be a security approach. All those who pick up arms have to be responded in that befitting manner, but at the same time the engagement process must continue. After all, Kashmiris are Indian citizens. Kashmir is an integral part of India. Kashmir is the jewel of our country. So therefore you have to continue with the engagement process. But the problem is the BJP doesn't want to find a solution. I say this at the cost of repetition, because if there is a solution, their pseudo-patriotic model of appealing for vote goes away. The BJP is just interested in political expediency, and you will see in the next 10 months this is going to play up. BJP follows the politics. There are just two agendas left for them, because they failed on every parameter. They failed in creating jobs, they failed on the agriculture front. The only thing with their left with is their pseudo-nationalistic model or playing the religious.
Okay, Adil, you're answering everything except the question that Supriya asked you, so I'll have to interrupt you and go to Sanjeev Srivastava and talk about the point that Neerja Chaudhary made right at the start of this debate, Sanjeev, and you alluded to it briefly as well. Has this decision been taken with an eye on general elections? And in some sense, is this a sign of a more muscular Modi? Is that what we're going to see from here on up until 2019? More evidence of a muscular Modi, because that's what the government, the political establishment believe is what will give him more currency among the electorate.
Looks like that. I think it's a final, some kind of a scorched earth policy, and without any other major fallback options, that the Modi regime is falling back to this muscular approach. Because what else is the plank that they have? They can't go that to the people saying that they have brought a chid in, that they have created a lot of jobs, or that the economy is on a roll, or the country's farmers' situation has improved drastically. So it's back to basics, unfortunately for them, and well, good luck to them. But there is one point, Sandeep, I would really like to talk about. I heard Mr. Ansari, I've known him for so long. He was one of the interlocutors with Dilip Padgaonkar and Radha, P. Chidambaram had appointed, and Neerja. Let us also not, what I want to say is that let us also not be in some kind of an ostrich-like situation or live in an age of romanticism. See what happened in Kashmir from 2015 till July 2016, everything was as good or as bad as it always was. So Burhan Wani was killed and the state erupted. So what was the option? Should Burhan Wani been given a Padma Shri, or would he have been decorated, or he should have been celebrated? So you kill a terrorist who was posing with gun and was really running a very hardcore terrorism outfit with 4 or 5 of his followers, and the state scenario changed. That's number one. The number two, we are talking about is inclusivity and all of that. I am really batting from the other side now. Why after every Friday prayers, things erupt in Valley? Even after Eid prayers, things erupted in Valley. Just imagine a situation when the reverse will start happening, which can never happen. Because the Hindus will never go to Tuesday temples or Saturday temples and erupt in this kind of mass hysteria or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that also the bull needs to be taken by the horn. It is a very, very dangerous mix of religious fundamentalism and regional aspiration for Azadi, which has become such a deadly cocktail in Kashmir. There are no easy measures, and you said, Sandeep, that it's very difficult to find a solution in 1 hour debate. People have not been able to find a solution in 35 years. So yes, it has to be a carrot and stick. It has to be reaching out to people by eliminating the wrong elements. And how it is to be done, you can make me sit all through my rest of life. I won't be able to come out with an answer. And I don't think any of the other panelists will be also. But it's a difficult one. It's a very serious issue.
I also feel,
so,
right.
Good luck.
Right. Yes, I think good luck is what all we could say, because I think there is political will that's lacking on both sides of the political spectrum. Today, BJP and Congress can't take the high moral ground and say they've been trying to find solutions to the valley, because the Congress could not find it in all these years and the BJP has failed miserably as well. But Neerja Chaudhary, I want to ask you this question. The divorce today and the high moral ground that the BJP is taking about how PDP messed things up. What does this tell us about the BJP's poll blueprint for 2019? Do you believe at some stage, because this is seen as a more macho move, will this help stem the fall in BJP's political gains, at least the ones that we've seen in by-polls, a string of by-polls?
I think your first part of the question, till a few days ago, the BJP ministers have been talking that how the situation has improved. In the valley, people have in this panel also talked about 80,000 crores that the Prime Minister is supposed to have given in the last 3 years. And if today the whole thing becomes untenable, Jammu and Ladakh are not getting their due in development, well, the BJP was part of this government till today. It was as much part of that government as Mehbooba Mufti, and therefore should share the credit or the blame for it. That's point number one. Point number two, we have all been talking about, the opposition is uniting on one side, and we've seen the by-poll results. Wherever the opposition is united, they've done well. The allies of the BJP are not so happy. Shiv Sena, Janata Dal U also, expressing its unhappiness. And therefore, we've all been talking about what are the rabbits that the Prime Minister is going to pull out of the hat in the coming weeks and months. This is one rabbit, I think.
Okay.
I think there'll be maybe the temple, Ayodhya, maybe another rabbit, direct benefit transfers, maybe another rabbit, but you can expect the Prime Minister not to give in so easily. He will do his utmost to come back to power in 2019, and that should be expected, that they will do their utmost.
Okay, so you're saying this is clearly being done with an eye on 2019, and this is one of the many rabbits that the Prime Minister has tried to pull out of his hat. That's Neerja Chaudhary there summing it up beautifully. But running out of time, Vineet Goenka, very quickly, the fact is that, you know, while you may have pulled the plug on this alliance, this also means after TDP, it's yet another ally that BJP has parted ways with. Is the Saffron Brigade so confident of its own show of, you know, getting to that magical 272 mark on your own, or are you being arrogant?
Neither Bharatiya Janata Party is arrogant, nor it is a question of 2019 election. The nation comes first. It is unlike the other political parties which think about next election. I think the statesman like Mr. Modi talks about the development and also talks about the nation's growth. I'll point out one thing. In the entire debate, I was giving you numbers of what projects were going on there with the money which was spent on that. My colleague Adil from Congress could not give a single figure. He was talking about journalist words. Now let me give you one more example how the railway connected between Doda. The Chamba tallest bridge of the world, which is 1198 crore rupees project, has been considered and delivered. Maybe probably by April 2019 it will be delivering. Now this kind of capital investment, I could give you the numbers because this is the first time central government was serious and it delivered the projects there. Now earlier central government, UPA central government never delivered anything. So there was no figure coming out of the Congress person. Now this developmental capital investment which is done there in Kashmir, this will yield employment to connectivity to the mainland. And as I said, female flocks of Kashmir were given interest reduction, free stamp duty, Swachh Bharat ke niche unko ghar ke andar bathroom diya gaya. Now understand, we talked about small microscopic society, that is the home where the females were taken care of this. Now will this not change the color? Will it not change the entire scene there? And this isolated the militants, and probably that is the reaction of the militants. Our compulsion was that we could not extend the ceasefire, and we thought it was inappropriate to extend the ceasefire. And when you have difference of opinion, where you cannot go together, you say sorry, now we have to break. And to project that it will be a hot pursuit, whether it will be muscular, it's incorrect. Security forces will decide what is necessary for security forces to take action like this. The development will continue, whether it is new government which will form there, whether it will be governor rule, whether there will be new elections. Now that I don't know because that data will come out in the next coming 2 days. But I think these were the best 3 days as far as the development projections and the funding went through the central government. I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Modi for that.
Okay. Mr. Goenka, hold your thoughts there. And Adil Singh Bopara, I've got very little time left on the show, so I'll ask you a quick question here. And just to talk to you from what BJP's point of view is, does this send a signal that BJP places national interest above political interest? The point that Mr. Goenka is trying to make here. And will this be perceived at least that way amongst the BJP's core constituencies? And that's perhaps why it has been done.
Not at all. They've actually destroyed Jammu and Kashmir. They've actually sacrificed national interest for their desire for power. Where's the question? This is nothing but a charade. This is an exit strategy by the BJP. And I just want to respond to Mr. Goenka. If you were doing so well and you were putting out all these facts, why did you break the alliance? Mr. Ram Madhav has come on record to say that this has been a disastrous alliance.
You broke it.
It was an unholy nexus, unholy alliance. If you were doing so well, you should have stayed on. You should have stayed on. Please don't mislead the viewers. Don't
if they want a ceasefire extension, that was not possible. And please, I'm not misleading. I'll tell you, the entire problem of Jammu and Kashmir is because of Congress.
For you.
Adil ji, it was Congress who was there in 1987.
There's been a
300%
I'm
afraid I'll have to
number of security casualties.
You are answerable to
How do you respond to this?
One second. Mr. Vineet Goenka and Adil Singh Bopara, just for the benefit of our viewers, I want to say this. Adil Singh Bopara, please keep quiet for a minute. And so will you, Mr. Goenka.
What are you talking?
Keep quiet and listen to me for a minute. The problem of Jammu and Kashmir is, Adil Singh Bopara, please let me talk. The problem of Jammu and Kashmir is what we are seeing on the show here. The two political parties can't agree on the future of India's turmoil-torn state, and that is the problem that Jammu and Kashmir is facing right now. Political solutions continue to elude. But I think on that note, thank you very much for being with us. Adil Singh Boparai, Vineet Goenka, Neerja Chaudhary, Mr. M.M. Ansari, and of course Sanjeev Srivastava for sparing time and being with us this evening on a very important topic, Jammu and Kashmir, the political turmoil there, and what cues does this mean for the rest of the country. It was indeed the Persian poet Amir Khusro who referred to Kashmir as a paradise on earth when he said, Agar Firdost Barioz Zameen ast, hami ast, to hami ast, to hami ast. It is a pity that political solutions still elude this turmoil-torn state of India.
A muscular policy is not enough anymore, and it's definitely not going to find solutions. We need to find a way to walk the talk, and politicians on both ends of the political spectrum have failed us. Yes, economic development is an important catalyst to end the crisis, but that alone is not a solution on its own. Thanks for being with us in this edition of the India Development Debate. News and updates continue on the other side. Keep it with ET Now.